Welcome everybody to the Finnish Expatriate of the Year Award ceremony. Please keep your microphones and cameras turned off. This event is being recorded. You may ask questions at the end of the program. Välkommen på årets utlandsfinländare-ceremonin. Vänligen håll mikrofonen och kameran avstängd. Detta evenemang spelas in. Vi har reserverat tid för frågor i slutet av programmet. Tervetuloa Vuoden ulkosuomalainen palkintotilaisuuteen. Pyydämme teitä pitämään mikrofonit ja kamerat suljettuina. Tilaisuus tallennetaan. Kysymyksille on varattu aikaa ohjelman lopussa. Lämpimästi tervetuloa. And the next, Markus Aaltonen, Chairman of Suomi-Seura, will open the ceremony.
Dear worldwide audience, welcome to the Finnish Expatriate of the Year 2021 Award ceremony. The Finland Society has selected the Finnish Expatriate of the Year 2021 year since 1993. The recognition is usually given to Finnish expatriate or descendants of the Finnish emigrant who have succeeded exceptionally well in their fields. With this year's selection, the Finland Society wishes to highlight the significance of researched information as well as minorities' role in Finnish expatriatism. The Migration Institute of Finland's survey entitled The Changing Nature of Being an Expatriate Finn, published this past June, shows that today's expatriate Finns are marked by diversity. They are a varied group linguistically and culturally, as well as in their citizenship. One of the most essential changes in Finnish expatriatism has taken place in migrants' educational background, in addition to being on average better educated than in the past. Today's expatriates often move overseas for educational reasons. Now I have honor to announce Assistant Professor Nanoscientist Joy Wolfram to the Finnish Expatriate of the Year 2021. Wolfram represents Finnish top expertise overseas as well as contemporary global Finnish expatriatism. She has lived in Britain, Sweden, China, Canada, and the United States. Now she works at the Mayo Clinic in Florida to develop new treatments for cancer and other serious illnesses. Nanotechnology is also behind COVID-19 RNA vaccination. Joy Wolfram has published about 60 scientific publications and received more than 30 scientific awards. She's a real paragon of science of whom Finland can be very proud of. Finland has been worried about brain drain, meaning highly educated professionals moving overseas. Over the past decade, the number of migrants with university degrees and those with graduate degrees in science has been higher than the number of people with corresponding degree moving to Finland. In other words, the phenomenon is real. Today's expatriate Finns can be seen building a global network which includes high-level expertise and know-how but is nevertheless regularly ignored in discussions at home in Finland. Joy Wolfram, I congratulate you on behalf of Finlandia Society and show you the document which shows that you are the person of expatriate year 2021. Perhaps we had difficulties to show it totally, but you will get this document later, now just virtually. Congratulations, Joy.
Thank you very much.
Joy Wolfram will be interviewed by Eva Lennon, but I tell you more about Eva Lennon a little bit later. Joy, floor is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be selected. En stor ära. Tack. And I'm also very excited that you have chosen to highlight science. And of course, biomedical research is so important now with a global crisis like the virus. So it's really a great year to highlight the importance of science. And I have some slides that I did want to share. So I'll do that. And let's see. Pulling it up here. Okay, excellent. Hopefully you can see the screen now. So I feel incredibly privileged and lucky to be born in Finland and to be Finnish. And I think our country stands out for so many reasons. And of course, having free education and healthcare is exceptionally rare. And, you know, being abroad in many other countries, until you do that, you don't fully realize how lucky we are to have this free education and healthcare, and especially since we have the top education system in the world. And of course, we have beautiful nature and 4 fantastic seasons. We have great musicians and composers. Our public transportation system is very efficient. We have equality in terms of rights for women. We have Santa, sauna, ice hockey. We have low corruption. We have design, tech, and innovation. And of course, we have SISU, the national spirit that keeps us going. And in addition to that, Finland is very strong in biomedical research. And so I was fortunate to do my bachelor's and master's degree at the University of Helsinki, as well as do various research projects in Helsinki. And as you heard, now I lead a nanomedicine lab in Florida, in the United States, at Mayo-Clinic. And when you think of a nanoparticle, it's something very small. And what my lab does is we create these small nanoparticles to treat medical conditions. And just to illustrate the size of a nanoparticle, this is one of my hair strands under the microscope. And if we look at the size, the thickness of a hair strand, it's 40,000 nanometers. So the nanoparticles that we use for medicine, 400 of those, if you stack them on top of each other, would fit into the thickness of a single hair strand. And these nanoparticles that we make, they can be different sizes and shapes. So here you see 2 examples. To the left, you see an example of metal nanoparticles that we've used. And to the right, you see an example of lipid or fat-based nanoparticles. And those fat-based nanoparticles are also the ones that are used similar ones are used for the RNA Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. But in my lab, we are focusing on treating cancer as well as primarily cardiovascular conditions. And so how I like to see the nanoparticles is actually like a fire truck. And so we can take medicine and load it into the fire truck. And the medicine is, for example, a cancer drug. And the nanoparticle, the fire truck, will help the medicine navigate through the body, throughout the bloodstream to reach the tumor. And the tumor can then be seen as a fire. And when we get the firefighters, with the help of this nanoparticle fire truck to the tumor, we can then fight the disease. So on a daily basis in the lab, we're developing these fire trucks to get to the right area in the body. So thank you again for this great honor to be selected. And I'm excited to hear what questions you have from Eva and the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you very much. Nyt haluan esitellä meille kaikille Eeva Lennonin, jonka Suomi-Seura viime vuonna valitsi vuoden ulkosuomalaiseksi. Me totesimme vuosi sitten, että tiedon tulva maailmalla on valtava, jopa liiallinen, ja usein se pakottaa meidät kysymään, mikä tieto on luotettava. Tässä katsannossa Eeva Lennon suomalaisena ulkomailla asuvana kirjeenvaihtajana on jättänyt meidän suomalaisten mieliin hyvin luotettavan kuvan. Hän on välittänyt paitsi oikeanlaista Suomi-kuvaa maailmalle, niin myös meille suomalaisille tärkeää tietoa Euroopasta ja maailman asioista. Eeva oli ennen tätä valintaansa vuoden ulkosuomalaiseksi kirjoittanut myös oman elämäkertansa, joka oli loistava kirja ja sai Suomessa valtavan suosion. Sen levikki oli aika suuri, ja nyt kun on vuosi mennyt, niin Eeva on palannut kirjailijana uudelleen areenalle ja julkaissut kirjan Kuuluuko Englanti Eurooppaan? Komea kirja ja upea sisältö. Mun tekee mieli ensimmäiseksi Eevalta kysyä, kun tämän luin, niin ensimmäinen kysymys tulee mieleen, että eikö olisi paikallaan kääntää tämä suomalaisille kirjoittamasi kirja myös briteille?
No, britit ovat täällä on julkaistu niin monta kirjaa tästä aiheesta, että varmaankaan ei suomalaisen näkemys ole se kaikesta pätevin, vaikka siihen on koottu aika paljon myös englantilaista tietoa. Joka tapauksessa minä olen kirjoittanut tuon pääasiassa suomalaisille, jotta suomalaiset eivät ikänä tekisi sellaista tyhmyyttä, että he lähtevät esimerkiksi EUsta kysymättä, mikä on vaihtoehto. Ja tämä on nimenomaan suomalaisille kirjoitettu kirja Brexitistä, kaikesta siitä, mitä minä olen itsekin voinut oppia Brexitistä. Ja nimenomaan siitä, miten se vaikuttaisi esimerkiksi, jos Suomi haluaisi lähteä EUsta.
Hyvin mielenkiintoisella perusteellisella tavalla kuvaat kirjassasi siten, miten Euroopan unionissa arvot ja arvojärjestelmä on ollut se asia, jota on edistetty talouden kautta, ja korostat nimenomaan talouden merkitystä Euroopan unionissa. Paljon hyviä ohjeita suomalaisille päättäjille ja Suomen kansalaisille. Kerrot myös tuossa kirjassa, että monet Manner-Euroopan päättäjät ovat Brexitin jälkeen todenneet huojentuneena, että päästiinpäs vihdoin tuosta vastarannan kiiskestä. Nyt olet myös melko tarkkaan laskenut niitä taloudellisia tappioita, mitä Britannia joutuu Brexitin takia kärsimään, kun paljon on julkisuudessa ollut tietoa ja sinä kirjassasi vahvistat sen, että päätöksiä tehtiin valheiden ja virheellisen tiedon ja väärinymmärryksen johdosta, niin alkaako tämä totuus suurin yleisön keskuudessa Britanniassa valkenemaan?
No, tällä hetkellä täällä yritetään epätoivoisesti luoda sitä globaalia Britanniaa, jonka takia nämä Brexitin kannattajat halusivat lähteä EUsta. Ja meidän täytyy nyt sitten nähdä ja katsoa, että mitä siitä nyt sitten tulee. Ja yleensä Brexitin kannattajat myöntävät, että taloudellisesti tämä oli melkoinen menetys Britannialle, mutta he katsovat, että tämä globaalin Britannian luominen on tärkeämpää. Tämä on aika pieni ryhmä siellä konservatiivisessa puolueessa, joka jostakin kumman syistä sai nyt johdon käsiinsä. Lähinnä siksi, että koko asia käsiteltiin konservatiivisen puolueen sisäisenä asiana, eikä koko maan yhtenä toisen maailmansodan tärkeimpänä ulkopoliittisena päätöksenä. Se, mikä tässä suomalaista eniten niin kuin kauhistuttaa, on se tapa, jolla ulkopolitiikkaa ei oteta vakavasti. Että sana ulkopolitiikka ei esiintynyt edes näissä kampanjoissa. Että suomalaiset eivät minun mielestäni kyllä tiedä paljonkaan sen enempää EUsta kuin britit, mutta he eivät leiki ulkopolitiikalla. Ja siinä on todennäköisesti aivan ratkaiseva ero Englannin ja Suomen välillä. Englantilaisilla on varaa leikkiä ulkopolitiikalla, meillä ei ole.
Aivan. Kiitos Eeva. Minä annan nyt sinulle vuoron haastatella Joy Wolframia. Ole hyvä.
Joy, niin kuin huomaat, me olemme täysin eri aloilla. Ja on jonkinlainen hyve tunnustaa sekä tieteessä että hyvässä journalismissa, että ei tiedä jotain jostakin alueesta. Aivan yhtä tärkeää kuin on se, mitä tietää, on myös tiedostaa se, mitä ei tiedä. Ja nyt minä riennän ilmoittamaan sinulle, että minä en kyllä tiedä mitään nanoteknologiasta. Sehän on hyvin uusi tiede. Voisitko selittää näitä tieteellisen työsi juuria vähän, että mitä se nanoteknologia, nanotiede nyt oikein on? Sillä minä olen vuoron varma, että kaikki ne, jotka tätä kuuntelevat, eivät liioin tiedä sitä.
Absolutely, thank you, Eva. You can ask in Finnish, but I'll answer in English or Swedish.
I can ask it in English too, if you want.
Finnish.
No, I just pointed out that you and I are in a completely different area. Yeah. Everything I studied was far from what you studied, and it is a virtue in science and in journalism, in good journalism, to admit when you don't know something. It is a virtue to know what you don't know, and therefore I admit at once that I do not know anything about nanotechnology. It's a very new science. Could you explain to us a bit what it is?
Definitely, thank you so much. And that was very interesting to hear your background as well and your recent book on Brexit. So I guess when I was young as a child, I got very interested in sort of the world around me and solving puzzles. And science was a way for me to solve problems. And later I realized that perhaps it could be an intellectual challenge as well as a way to help people suffering from diseases. And one of the diseases that really stood out to me, of course, is cancer. And every 3 seconds, someone dies of cancer. And so I had, the great opportunity to do research, as I mentioned, in Helsinki, as well as then at the Karolinska Institutet in Sweden. And there I worked with conventional cancer drugs. And I learned a lot about it, and later also did conventional cancer research in Canada. But one of the things that stood out to me was that there was so much progress in certain types of cancers, but other types like metastatic breast cancer or pancreatic cancer, the survival rates hadn't really changed over 70 years. So there were these specific aggressive types of cancer where there wasn't really a lot of progress. So I thought, the conventional medicine, the traditional way of treating cancer has worked very well, but not for all diseases, not for all cancers. So we really need to think in a different way about these difficult to treat tumors. And so for me, 10 years ago, nanomedicine and nanotechnology stood out as a completely new way to look at using medicine. And so I was very fortunate to get some funding from Finland to then go to the United States to try to develop a completely new way to treat cancer with nanotechnology. And as I showed briefly in my slides, what we're trying to do is provide the car or the transportation or the fire truck. So we can use the conventional medications, but by using nanoparticles as well, we help those medications reach the right location. So we have less side effects and better response to the cancer drugs. And so one of the other things that I do in my lab is extracellular vesicles, and that's a very complex name, but that's actually our own nanoparticles. So in our blood, we have a lot of nanoparticles. So our cells will release also these fat bubbles, and these fat bubbles contain important messages. So a new way to do nanotechnology is to take the fat bubbles from our body, load them with cancer drugs, and this will trick the body into thinking it's itself, and the cancer cells will take up the fat bubbles, but inside there are the drugs that will then destroy the cancer cells. So we're very excited about these type of strategies, both using synthetic nanoparticles and these biological nanoparticles.
You've been 10 years away from Finland. Do you still have a strong Finnish identity? And does the fact that you belong to the minority group, the Swedish-speaking Finns, affect your identity, your Finnish identity in some way?
Yes, well, I grew up in England, actually close to London, where you're currently at. So I spent my childhood in England, and then I came back to Brände Gymnasium, to the Swedish-speaking gymnasium in Helsinki, and then did my bachelor's and master's degree in Helsinki. So I've spent most of my life actually outside Finland, but I still feel strongly that I'm Finnish, and I feel like I have a Finnish identity. And I'm very proud of that, and I feel very privileged to be a Finnish citizen, and that's the only citizenship I have. So I really value that, and I think being a Swedish-speaking Finn, suomenruotsalainen, I think that it just enriches my Finnish identity in being able to have that Swedish-speaking roots, but still I feel Finnish. I'm an introvert, so I'm like many Finnish people, and I think having roots in Finland, having a Finnish education has helped me tremendously in my career. So I do feel Finnish, but I also feel like a global citizen. And so I think I have the best of both worlds.
You and I belong to completely different generations. My generation of women had to fight to be taken seriously in Finland. Your generation seems to have no trouble in having self-confidence to take your part and your position in society according to your talent. In that way, you are a rather typical product of Finnish society. Let's look at our Prime Minister and the government. I mean, Sanna Marin is more or less in your age group, and most of the ministers in the government are too, and they don't seem to have any trouble in thinking that they wouldn't be good enough for their position. So, but how is it in other countries? Have you had to fight for your position? Have you had to fight to make them take you seriously?
definitely. And Eva, I want to thank your generation for paving the way. I can only imagine, you know, the challenges that you had in terms of your career path. So I'm very grateful for all the generations before mine that fought for it. And I think Finland is a wonderful example where, you know, we have women in leadership positions. I think even in Finland, we still have some work to do, but tremendous progress from the past. And of course, in countries such as the United States, I personally see that there's even more work to do in terms of women being able to be in leadership positions within research and other careers. And so it's encouraging to look back and see how long we've come. And I think we can use that to further propel us in many areas, especially in countries that are not as fortunate as Finland to have a government that is, for example, has a lot of females in the leadership. Yeah.
You are leading a group of 7 scientists. I looked at the picture in Suomen Silta in the ulkosuomalainen magazine, and they are all women, only one black man there. How do you explain this? Have you chosen these people, or have they been imposed on you? And they're also very different ethnic groups. There seems to be at least one Muslim, some black women, all kinds of various. It's a very varied kind of group.
Yes, well, the great thing, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wondered if you have chosen them and why, just this kind of thing, or have they been imposed on you?
No, definitely not. One of my goals is to have a diverse group. And I think we're very lucky in science, in a scientific career, because it is so global. So most of the researchers, for example, in the United States are not Americans. So it's one of those careers where it's so international. And, you know, in the career is also such that it's dynamic. So people usually come to the lab, they work 2 years, then they go on maybe to start their own group. So it's constantly changing, and you have new people come in from different generations. You have people from all over the world. But definitely we need to, in the US, we need to increase the diversity in terms of if 20% of the population is African American, then we should have 20% of researchers also represent that population. And so I do strive to do that, but it's also better for science in terms of creativity. If everyone thinks in the same way, we won't find those new solutions. And if we can all come together and we have slightly different views or dramatically different views, I think that is really when we get the best solutions. So I do try to get a diverse group of lab members as well as collaborators, yeah, and mentors.
Have you got initiated at all about science in Finland, and particularly in your area? How do you see it? Is it isolated? Is it internationally connected?
Yeah, so I know some great nanomedicine groups in Finland, and you know, since I did my bachelor's and master's at the University of Helsinki, I do have connections there. But I think science is in general quite collaborative and international. And I think what I see with Finland is great collaborations with especially the other North European countries, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and there's funding opportunities to promote this type of collaboration. But that isn't to say that we should thrive to keep this and even increase collaboration, you know, outside North Europe. And I think to really keep science alive and get those innovative solutions, we need to emphasize international collaboration, because we can't be experts in everything. So only when we come together with expertise from all over the world is when we can make advancements for example, treatment of difficult diseases.
Are you doing something personally to improve the connection between the Finnish scientific circles and yourself and your country's science?
Definitely. So I'm in several societies in Finland that have a focus on either academia in general or specifically biomedical research, as well as I visited University of Helsinki, almost once a year pre-pandemic. And then in addition to that, I've also been up to Oulu and other places. So I definitely think it's important, but in the future, I would like to do even more in terms of collaborating with the great Finnish scientists. Yeah.
Which are the leading countries of nanotechnology? We have heard about China and United States, but how about Europe?
Yeah, well, China and United States are definitely the leaders in nanotechnology, and that's just because they're very huge countries and they're the leaders in science in general. But of course, there's great European groups that focus on nanomedicine in Finland and elsewhere. And so I think, 10 years ago, it was still an emerging field. Today, it's quite established, as we see with the vaccines as well being approved. So I think we can find great nanomedicine research all over Europe.
Do you think EU would have a role there in some kind of creating some kind of cooperation between the EU nations to develop nanotechnology and nanoscience?
Yes, definitely.
Do you think it's a loss from that point of view that Britain left EU?
I can say that Brexit is definitely not good for science and for academic education. So hopefully the UK can find other ways to promote international collaboration, especially within the EU, in terms of universities and academic research. So I think there's hope, but it's definitely a challenging time for science in the UK.
I'm sure the audience would like to ask you some questions. You are a rare bird, really, and you are knowing something about something that most of us know nothing. So I leave it to the audience now.
Should the audience put messages in the chat, or should they turn on their video and microphone?
Yes.
Tina, what do you think?
Okay, thank you very much, Joy and Eva, for the most interesting interview. Now we really have time for questions, and I think you can raise your hand or write in the chat space if you have questions to Joy. Också även på svenska, stort tack för den jätteintressanta intervjun. Jag skulle kunna lyssna på er i flera timmar här. Nu är det alltså dags för frågor. Om publiken vill fråga, så det är bara att lyfta upp handen eller skriva frågan på chatten. Meillä on siis hetki aikaa kysymyksille nytten, ja kiitän Joyta ja Eevaa erittäin mielenkiintoisesta haastattelusta. Ja jos haluat kysyä, niin nosta kätesi ylös tai kirjoita kysymyksesi chat-kenttään. Ja näyttää siltä, I think we have already Lisa here who would like to ask. Lisa.
Sorry, hi everybody. I'm Lisa from Canada. I just wanted to ask you, since you are fairly young yourself, but I'm thinking my children, they've been, born outside of Finland, but they have a Finnish citizenship. And if any young, Finnish Canadian or other Finnish background person would be interested in this field, what would be your I guess advice to them? Like, should they seek the education in Finland, or probably most of them don't have a language skill to study in Finnish, like even though they might speak Finnish, but obviously the vocabulary is not like every day. So is the education available in Finland in English, or would you recommend that they study abroad? Or like, I guess I'm just kind of trying to find out, what is your take? What would be the best way to get into this field for the younger, Finns?
Yeah, Lisa, thank you so much for the question. I think definitely, I'm most familiar with University of Helsinki, but I know that many of the universities, including Åbo Academy, do have, especially at the doctorate level, most of the, or a large portion of the students are international. So it's very easy to come to Finland, get a high-level education with, international courses in English. So I definitely think that would be a great idea to get the education from Finland, but of course Canada as well. There's definitely programs focused on nanotechnology and nanomedicine, and I think my advice in general is that it's like everything, you have to work very hard, not give up, as well as networking is quite important. And sometimes we Finns are quite shy, but we have to put ourselves out there and talk to people and ask questions and try to find collaborations and opportunities. But it's definitely the whole RNA vaccines is definitely a boost for nanomedicine. It's the first time that nanomedicine is broadly affecting society. So I do think it's a really good time to go into the field, because we're starting to see completely new therapeutics, such as, RNA therapeutics, potentially gene editing, and all of these new technologies will require nanomedicine to be effective. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you a follow-up question. Do you see the link between the IE and that field of studies and the science?
Definitely. So AI is definitely going to be important for all healthcare areas, but especially in nanotechnology, where the medications are getting a lot more complex. We really need computational tools to not only optimize the nanoparticles, but also to understand how they interact with the body. So I think definitely combining sort of artificial intelligence with nanotechnology, that's definitely the future.
Thank you.
I see we have a question in the chat.
Yes, Suzanne Lennon. Hello, Joy. It's great to meet you. And she has a very good question to you. I think, what is the best way to encourage young girls to follow your path? And I think it's a very good question. I think mothers and grandmothers are thinking about this.
Yes, and I think, in one way, Suomi-Seura is doing this because we need to highlight role models, and there's still a lot fewer women in science, and especially in leadership positions. So by making ourselves accessible and by having organizations that can show, if I can do it, you can do it. So I think role models are very important, as well as, we, because of Eva and other women who have paved the way for us, we now have the tools and we have accessibility. And so I think, in terms of showing young women role models and showing them how much, the world has improved in terms of equality is really the way to go. But it's not easy. So we do have to prepare ourselves to be determined and not give up until we have, hopefully in a few years in the future, even more sort of women representation in science and academia.
Thank you very much. Now I don't see any more questions, but I would like to ask you, because you have been living in so many countries, the China experience, I really would like to hear about it, and what kind of lessons learned. Can you tell? Can you maybe share with us?
Yeah, definitely. So I really loved living in Beijing. Of course, it's a huge city, so you feel like you're really in the center of the world. But you know, from the Chinese culture is actually surprisingly quite similar, in my opinion, to the Finnish culture, where, you know, it's about, you work very hard. There's a work ethic, and also, you know, there's perhaps somewhat shy and introverted. So I really felt at home living in China. But of course, things happen very quickly over there. So you're walking to university one day and there is not a building, and the next day there's a building. So you really see a lot of dynamic movement in the country. But in terms of nanotechnology, it was great to see both the US system and the Chinese system and learn the best of both worlds. And I think, you know, the Chinese educational system is to learn a lot of information sort of by heart, so repetitive, while the US system is a lot more focused on critical thinking. And I think we really need both for an effective education. And so I think, interestingly, Finland, I think, is in the middle of this type of education. And I think we can learn the best of what all these countries have to offer.
Thank you very much. What about your future? Do you have plans coming back to Finland or someday, or what do you think about future at the moment?
Yes, well, it's been a privilege to live in so many countries, and I think it's definitely something that I recommend for everyone to work and study internationally. So in the future, you know, the most important thing for me is that we can, you know, make a difference in terms of developing these nanomedicines. So whether that's in Finland or anywhere else, I'm very open to it. So, and I think Finland has a lot to offer, as I mentioned, in terms of research. So definitely something that I would consider in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. And do we have any questions to Joy? I think we have participants from different parts of different countries in the world, and would be nice, of course, to know from which countries people come from. But if you have any questions to Joy, so please raise your hand or write this chat. Okay, congratulations, Joy. It was great to listen to you. I wish you continuing success in this important work. We are proud of you. It's Tuula writing here.
Thank you, Tuula. It's great that all of you could take the time to join this interview today. So I really appreciate that, and thank you for the support. It's fun what we do, but it's so tough because from the lab to the medicine cabinet, it takes an average of 12 years and an average of $2.7 billion to get a single medicine approved. And most of those medications don't make it. So we can work on something for 12 years and then something happens and it doesn't make it. So there's a lot of failure in science, but there's also so much potential to make a difference. So we really need the support in terms of, you know, here today, but also in terms of funding from society to keep innovation going. And we don't give up. And so we continue to work on finding new solutions.
Okay, thank you.
I see a question in the chat.
Oh, there is. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, you're so fast. Okay. Is there competition among the scientists? Is there any conflict between competition and cooperation? And it's Eila Härkönen-Hart. The question from Eila Härkönen-Hart.
Yes, thank you, Ayla. I think there's definitely always competition, but I've been fortunate not to see a lot of it personally. So what I feel that there's so many unanswered questions and there's so much to learn, especially for nanomedicine, that there isn't enough time. So I feel sort of the opposite, where, you know, there's so many possibilities. So in my field, I haven't experienced a lot of that, but there are definitely other sort of perhaps more conventional scientific fields where there is a lot of competition, for example, who is the first to identify a new gene and so on. But I think it's always better to have that cooperation. And I think most scientists are very respectful of other researchers' findings. And so one of the things I emphasize is collaboration in my lab. So we have a lot of collaborators and it's been a great experience.
Okay, thank you, Joy. And now you get some greetings from different countries. That's nice. Thank you so much for. And now I think I don't see any more questions. So
Yes, there is one. Ritva Streng.
Oh, sorry.
Chile.
Oh.
Or two, actually, I think.
Okay, yeah. Let's have a look. Ritva Strengel, ja, vårliga hälsningar från Chile, kiitos. Congratulations, you are a good example to young people. Very nice. And then,
wow, so we have Canada, Barcelona, Chile. That's amazing.
And then, yes, from Barcelona, you get also greetings. Seija is writing from Barcelona and sending greetings to you too. And is there any more questions? I'm not so fast. I'm not so fast to read the chat, but I try my best. Okay. Then I think it's I say something in Swedish because it's your mother tongue. And på Finlandssamfundets vägnar vill jag ännu gratulera dig, Joy, på ditt modersmål svenska. Med din förebild inspirerar du oss alla och speciellt de unga i hela världen. Som du säger behöver vetenskap alltid föregångare och efterträdare. Vi behöver främmande fåglar som tänker på ett nytt sätt och tar fram rent av okonventionella lösningar för att förbättra världen. Du är ett lysande exempel på den utlandsfinländska expertisen som gör Finland känt i världen. Stort tack för det. Och vi önskar dig lycka till i det viktiga arbetet som uppskattas väldigt mycket. Stort tack, Joy. Thank you very much to everybody for participating, and we wish you a very pleasant autumn and hope to see you soon again, hopefully in Finland. And thank you everybody for participating. Suomi-Seura kiittää kaikkia osallistujia. Toivomme oikein hyvää syksyä kaikille ja toivomme myöskin, että tapaamme Joy Wolframin täällä Suomessa jälleen joku päivä. Tervetuloa Suomeen. Tack Joy, lycka till, trevlig höst och vi hoppas att vi ses snart igen.
Tack Tina och alla, det är en stor ära. Tack ska ni ha. Kiitos paljon. Thank you.
Kiitos. Kiitoksia kaikille.